And welcome back. Okay, today on the show, just check my mic is on. Good. We have Valerie from the US. She has competed in FMG shows, started off in WFF. Now she's done 2 FMG shows, Dallas last year and LA. And she will be stepping on the FMG UK in just shy of 4 weeks. So welcome, Valerie. Welcome, Valerie, to the podcast. Welcome, Valerie, to the show. If you can just give yourself a little bit of an introduction, who you are, where you're based, and a little bit of a breakdown of your competing journey so far, that would be absolutely excellent.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm based out of Northern Virginia in the US, so pretty close to DC. I've lived here with my husband for, in this house, about 5 years. We've been in Virginia for about 9 now. And I think my fitness journey probably started right around when we moved. I used to do half marathons, so I did 2 half marathons. You can see I still have my running medals. And loved doing that. It was very casual. I just did it for fun. I've always been athletic. I never really viewed myself as an athlete. And then somewhere along the way, I decided that was something I really wanted for myself and started taking it a little more seriously. The first program that I ever followed, I actually found like an Oxygen magazine challenge from Hattie Boydell, and followed that. And this was in like 2015, 2016, something like that. And that was really the first like weightlifting program I ever followed. Fell in love with it, got really excited about it. Luckily, my husband is like my biggest fan and cheerleader and kitted out our basement. So we have a full basement gym and have had since then. And so I have always done my lifting programs fully from home and kind of fell deeper and deeper into the world of lifting from there. Hired my first coach for macros only in like 2017. Did my first like real bulk and put on some muscle mass for the first time, and decided it was the beginning of 2022. And so I've worked in corporate marketing for 14 years now. And as you can imagine, during COVID, work got really interesting for a lot of corporate folks, myself included. And it sort of took over my life to the point where I was working weekends, I was working nights, and it just felt like I had sort of lost myself to my job. And in conversation with friends, had shared like, oh yeah, I would really love to be able to go and compete and step on stage someday, but like, when would I ever have the time? And they went, well, why wouldn't you have the time? Can't you make the time? Like, if you want to do it, shouldn't you just do it? And so, yeah, I kind of had an F-it moment and signed up for a show with WBFF in Tampa in 2022. Literally just found a random coach, one of the big, well-known coaches, and signed up for that team and hopped into my first prep. And it was great. The prep was rough. The prep was really rough, but the show was great. I fell in love with it. Fell in love with the community. The women that I met were just incredible. And I found you, Tom, I think probably a couple weeks before actually stepping on stage,
Yeah.
knowing that I needed a little bit of something different if I decided to continue competing. And yeah, just kind of fell into it from there. I won my pro card in my first show, which was
Gosh.
wise. It's great. And yeah, I just was kind of addicted. So that's the journey. That was 2022. And we did our pro debut for me last year in Dallas, 2024. So we took a pretty strong build season there,
Mm.
and I got quite uncomfortable. I think we were having fun. But yeah, it was quite a build. So
And by build and uncomfortable, I think Valerie meant a little bit too much, not so much too much body fat gain, but obviously, I think if you're fair to say, coming from a running background, and I would love to get running Valerie versus FMG Pro Valerie up on screen right now. um, Started training in 2016. Was you? No, 2016 or 2017. The Hattie Boydell Oxygen. So funny. My partner Louise, she actually also got involved in weightlifting through an Oxygen back around about the same kind of time as well. So funny. your transition seemed to be fairly easy from not so fairly easy, but it was one of those kind of stories where had you ever done any type of resistance training before, or was it very much just cardio endurance stuff?
So I'd always done some resistance training. I used to horseback ride when I was growing
Okay.
up and did ballet, did gymnastics. So, I'd always been pretty active and my family went to the gym together. So that was something where
Right.
like my sister, my mom, my dad, we would go and, my mom lifted. And so I always had a little bit of exposure to that growing up. I didn't really get comfortable in the weight room space until a little bit later on. And I think um, I really didn't take it seriously. I think
Mm.
I looked at weightlifting as very secondary to all of the cardio that I was used to doing. So, I was very focused on running or dance and not so much on strength training. And when I did start dabbling in it, I was doing a lot of like the high intensity interval,
Mm.
kind of throwing weights around to get your heart rate up, doing circuit training, and not really doing more of like a bodybuilding focus. Like I had never done a bodybuilding split before doing the program from Hattie. So yeah, it
But
was.
that was kind of your first introduction to, I guess, progressive resistance training was that introduction through the Oxygen magazine, following probably a fairly kind of generic program, but exactly probably what you needed back then, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I started out that program, I could barely deadlift 60 pounds. It was really difficult. My form was terrible. It felt very uncomfortable. And by the time that I was done with that, I was so excited that I could do 130 pounds. It was a massive progression.
Fucking
That was just for
105%.
jog reps. It was not a lot. We're talking like two. And I still like, I don't kill it on deadlifts, but I mean, during the time that we worked together, I brought that up to over 200, which was
Mm.
insane. I never thought I would be able to do that. But yeah, it's addictive to see progress like that. When you
Yeah.
start feeling strong, you don't want to ever let that go.
Yeah, progress is progress, right? I mean, as humans, we love to progress in everything we do. And when we actually, and I think obviously, you were probably, well, I'm assuming you were back in the day. It's hard to, when you were doing your cardiovascular, when you're doing running, it's a different metric that you track, right? It's time based. It's difficult to essentially track. Oh, I'm this level of fitness now, and if I do this for 2 weeks, I'll be that level of fitness. But in terms of what I think what makes and why people get so addicted to resistance training is it's from a beginner in terms of the newbie gains to essentially 3 months down the line, it's visible and very noticeable in terms of the progress that you make within that time. So it's like, wow. And it's data driven. So it's something you can kind of track weekly and monthly on a basis. And that's the way it should be. So that's it's something that's quite easy to get addicted to when you start to see those changes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with running, like, let's be clear. I have short legs. I am all torso. I was not a fast runner. I've never been a fast runner. So I was never running with the intention of trying to win a race. I was going
Mm.
for completion and for personal bests. And so, when you're doing that, it's a different sort of it's a self competition, right? Like you're
Yeah.
setting goals against yourself. And I would argue that bodybuilding is very similar, but strength training you
Mm.
can see what benchmarks exist for other
Yeah.
people who are in your age group, your gender, that sort of thing. And so it was really interesting when, I tend to be someone who likes to research things. And so, when I started lifting, I went and like looked up what the average deadlift was for a woman who was my size and was honestly embarrassed that I was so much weaker than what the average even was.
Was
And
this when you were lifting 60 pounds?
yeah, yeah,
Right.
it was. It was
So
it
where
was
did you tie in when you were 105% up, lifting 130 pounds?
Yeah, no, I mean it's a huge improvement, and I think I surpassed the average now. But at the time, you know, what else would light a fire under your butt than something like that? It really made me want to improve, and I think having those benchmarks, it felt different somehow than running. Like running, I never looked at it as sort of a competitive thing. It was almost
Mm.
like meditative, like
Mm.
stress relief,
Yeah.
because it's such a repetitive movement you can shut your brain off.
Mm.
Now, after years and years and years of lifting, lifting has gotten to that point for me as well. Not repetitive, but where I can kind of zone out a little bit and just focus on the lift, and I have that same sort of mental peace when I'm lifting, which is one of the things I think that's helped keep me with it is, my brain is always on. So it's a nice time to be able to
100%.
turn it off.
So that transition from falling in love with weight training, falling in love with resistance training, to competing, how did that amalgamate? What made you take things to the next level? Because I ask this question on a premise because I know a lot of people get to a point of like, well, kind of what am I doing this for? Like they're lifting heavy, they look good, they look lean, they've done a couple of diets, they've done a couple of photo shoots, and then they're looking for that next progression. Was that quite a similar thing with you, Valerie?
No.
Okay.
No. So I had this conversation with one of the other ladies on our team a few days ago because we were talking about, what would you be doing if you weren't competing? Would you still be doing what you were doing? And my answer was yes, I would still be getting up every morning, doing a lift, doing cardio, and my life wouldn't look that different because I enjoy that part of the journey. What I think drew me to stage was two things. Wanting a life that wasn't work because I was a workaholic in the worst way possible and had nothing that I drew boundaries around to protect my own personal time. And I knew that picking up something that was a pretty intense, demanding hobby would force me to do some boundary setting for myself. So that was one thing. And then I have less of this now, but I had horrible stage fright and I really, really wanted to get past that. And so I think that was part of my decision to step on stage was just like, I know if I have spent all of this time preparing and dieting and putting in all of this work and, buying my registration and getting a bikini and doing the hair and makeup, like by the time that I'm in the wings, getting ready to walk on stage, I'm not going to walk away. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do the best that I can. And I really wanted something that would force me to overcome that fear of being seen trying. One, for, personal growth, but two, it was problematic for my job as well, which was something that I really wanted to move past. A lot of my work being in marketing is being kind of that public facing person for the company that I'm working for. And if you have stage fright and you're like drenched in sweat, stepping on stage, trying to get a couple words out, that's not a good look. No one wants to have you be the person who's out there, looking massively uncomfortable. So yeah, I wanted to get past it for me, but also because it was helpful for my career. And I think it worked. It definitely made a big difference. So, goal achieved.
100%. I mean, there seems to be just when you were saying that, there seemed to be a little bit of disconnect. Not so much of a disconnect, but you were talking about the initial kind of goal being stage fright. But when you go into it a little bit deeper, was there a sense of like self-confidence thing as well? I mean, obviously you pull back a little bit from the, okay, that's the end goal, getting on stage. I'm nervous about getting on stage, but where does that come from? Do you feel that there was almost kind of like a hiding from yourself a little bit, or kind of a lack of self-confidence that maybe brought you, we could go back into, is that what brought you into strength training? Is that why you wanted to better your physique? Was it a confidence thing? Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I think so. I think confidence is such a funny thing because it can vary depending on what facet of yourself you're talking about, right? So I am always confident about my intellectual self. I feel very secure in that. I know that I can write well, speak well, communicate well. I know that I do good work. So I've never really felt insecure about those things. And that's been true all through my childhood. I've always been, like the academic nerdy person. That's just who I am. But I was never part of like the pretty girl group when I was growing up. I horseback rode, so I was constantly like covered in dirt and in a barn and sunburned, and like it was not like a glamorous sport. And the other sports that I plugged into as I got older were much the same. I did a little bit of lacrosse, I did a little bit of softball, and they're very like gritty, physical, like not cute sports.
Especially
So
lacrosse in the UK is, I feel my sister used to play lacrosse. Now, I premise it because I don't want this to come across wrong, but lacrosse in the US is tough.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, they're like American,
Hitting each
like,
other with
especially men, they've
sticks
got like
is
American
condoned
football
in
padding.
that environment. Yeah, it's rough. I would say it's similar to like rugby in the
Yeah.
UK, where like you're going at each other. I did not stick with that for very long. It was a little
Right.
violent for me. But those were the sports that I was playing, and so my friends who were in dance or in cheerleading or things like that, who were doing things that they were celebrating being a part of a very like feminine group
Mm.
doing things that were very pretty and or just a little bit more celebrated, I think, societally. I never participated in things like that.
Mm.
And I did dance as a kid, but when I was doing that, I had one of those like really scary Russian ballet teachers who used to be like part of a performing group, like a touring performing group, and she was brutal. So I definitely got the feedback as I turned like 10. Oh, you're too fat for ballet, so like you should find a different hobby. Like get on out of here. And that's hard for a little kid to
Yeah.
hear. So I always sort of accepted that that was who I was and I never really felt comfortable celebrating how I looked.
Mm.
So I do think that doing competitions and stepping on stage is a different type of confidence that I have been slowly building because yeah, if you asked me at the beginning if I felt pretty or like a fitness model, which is one of the terms that they tend to use, the
Yeah.
federations tend to use, um, I probably would have just laughed at you. Like I really didn't feel didn't feel like that was a thing. I'd never had professional hair and makeup done on me
Mm.
before my first show. Um, so yeah, it is a different type of confidence, I think, to feel comfortable in your skin
Mm.
physically with how you look.
Yeah. And it's so funny you mentioned that in terms of your Russian gymnast coach, or I think your dance teacher, because,
Yeah.
the world of competing is built on insecurity in a way. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. But you have a lot of people, including myself, that use competing as a sense of like, getting out of yourself, creating that. We all know that getting on stage itself is not it's a confidence booster to a certain degree, but it's very short lived. It's the process that builds the confidence when it comes up to it's the process. It's about, making promises and sticking true to the promises that you made to yourself. And this, your confidence and your commitment around yourself, I think, grows from every time you do a prep, every time you stick to your word, every time you do not break your promises and get up early. It's the process that creates the confidence, right? Rather than the actual getting on stage. That's just the celebration. But yeah, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely would. I think that it's the process and the gradual solidifying of habits. I
Mm.
think when you start, everything feels hard, right?
Mm.
Because you're just getting used to it. It's like learning a new language. It's every word is difficult. Every lift session is difficult at the beginning. Every cardio session is difficult. Every day that you have to be on a certain set of macros and there's something else that you wanted to eat or your friends are going out to dinner, it's
Mm.
difficult. And then over time, as you get more and more and more comfortable repeating those behaviors, they stop being full of effort and they start being a habit. So when
Mm.
people ask you, how do you stick with this program? I go, well, how do you brush your teeth every morning?
Mm.
Right? And it becomes something that is so ingrained in who you are and the things you do every day that you just don't really think about it as much. Like, there is not a thought in my brain when I roll out of bed in the morning and put on my workout gear and go down to the gym in my basement and start my like program for the morning. I am not there. I'm just doing my habit at this point. And so, yeah, it's that. It's you're beating down the trail for yourself by walking it over and over and over again. And the longer that you're doing it, the more established that trail becomes and the easier it becomes to navigate over time. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's a process, but this is an actual question. Every day is like, does your mood and your want and your I guess motivation to do it every day. I know it's in terms of the process and you just have to do it, so you just get it done. But obviously, are some mornings more of a challenge than others?
um, I would be lying if I said yes. It's not. I'm not thinking about it.
Mm.
So every night before I go to sleep, I literally put out exactly what I'm going to wear in the order that I'm going to put the clothes on. And I get dressed in the dark. So I literally know that my left sock is on top. And I put that one on first. Like that's how regimented this is. So I put them on. My dogs wake up. I have two little Pomeranians. My dogs wake
Mm.
up and they're like, we have to go potty now. We run down to the basement. They go out. I come up. I grab my water. I grab my headphones and I get downstairs. And that's it. And I'm not thinking about it. So by the time that I start like lifting, I might have like, oh, I'm a little sore or I'm a little tired, but I don't give room for those thoughts to grow because they're really not helpful.
Yeah.
So I'll just put on some music and let them pass. So if you were talking about meditation, I think whoever would be guiding the meditation would be like, yeah, observe your thoughts and let them float by like clouds in the sky. And that's kind of what I'm doing because I am not awake, which is part of why I love morning workouts because I
Mm.
don't have any time to think about whether or not I want to be there. Now, on the days where I have like a longer lift session and I can't also do my cardio in the morning and I have to
Mm.
leave it until later, that sucks because
Yeah.
then I get to think about it and think about it during the day and then it becomes difficult. So but again, that's stepping outside of the habit, right?
Yeah.
If I can keep it inside of the habit container so that it feels very easy to do, then it's not a problem. But as soon as it's breaking the habit and I start thinking about it, that's where it becomes difficult. So yeah, I would say if there's something that anyone who's listening is really struggling with, the more that you can make it a habit so that you don't have to think about it, the
Mm.
easier it's going to be. Because that's what I've done with every habit that I didn't want. I didn't used to be a morning person. I used to struggle to get up in the morning, and now I wake up before my alarm goes off, normally at 5:30, and I can't make it stop. Now, like if you said just go ahead and sleep in until 9, I can't
Mm.
do it.
Yeah. I mean, your circadian rhythm's literally set to run by that time. But you understand that that is through, I feel, I feel what you're saying through that is quite nonchalant, but that is,
Full time.
yeah, that is months and years
Yeah.
of a process that you have built. And also you are like, this isn't something that is effectively you could have quite easily cottoned onto at the beginning. This is process driven stuff. And this is you so dialed in at this point that is, it's not even a question. It's not even how I feel in the morning. It's just, I don't really feel anything. I'm just following exactly what I need to do because I know it's need to get. But one question to you, Valerie, do you put in things kind of through the day that do you have little bits through the day that you kind of put in that you look forward to? Like, I know, I'm sure you love life. I'm sure, every day is kind of like, it has a positive element to it, but do you strategically put in bits throughout the day that you look forward to?
Just like in general for life enjoyment, you mean?
During prep, we're talking about you're 4 weeks out from prep now. Like, do you feel
Yeah.
the need to do that, or is it so kind of like dialed in and process driven that you don't even need to? It's just like, how does your mood affected throughout the day? Like you said, sometimes in the evenings you struggle. If you don't get it done in the morning, I'm also like, it's never going to happen in the evening. But you are in the process now in terms of 4 weeks out where it has to get done.
Yeah.
You don't want to be you don't want to be questioning yourself when you get on stage in the sense of, oh, if I had have done this, if I had have done this. It's an absolute. So for me personally, and I know a couple of the others in the team, they put in periods of the day where they might, I mean, it might be their breakfast, it might be their lunch, it may be a little walk with your partner, it may be just going to a new coffee place. Do you need anything like this to kind of keep that level, or is it just so process driven now and so dialed in that you don't even need that?
I mean, I think it's healthy to build those things, and I wouldn't say that they're a need. So, um, I love coffee and I incorporate that every day,
Mm.
probably to a fault. Like I prioritize that over normal hydration in some days. Um, I mean, we're all human, right? Like I'm not perfect. That is definitely the water intake is one of my downfalls. I will always reach for coffee instead.
Mm.
In prep, I don't like force myself to worry about that. I'll cut off caffeine at a certain point so it doesn't impact my sleep. But
Mm.
if I drink 5 coffees in a morning and I'm not having a heart attack, we're fine. So just like let it happen. Um, I love being able to spend time with, my partner and my dogs. So, I definitely make sure to take little breaks during the day to just like check in with them and, maybe have a cuddle with the puppies if I'm feeling like I need something. I still fit in a Ninja Creamy every night. I love those. It's like a little
Needed.
treat. So
Yeah.
I'm such a fan. But yeah, I mean, even 4 weeks out, I'm still doing that every night. Fits in just fine. I don't have any problem. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's definitely things I think I incorporate, but they're not things where it's like an aside. Like I'm not doing something that is stepping out of line or making it harder for me to reach my goals. I'm finding things that are aligned with my goal that I
Mm.
find joy in. So, if I'm on the struggle bus with doing evening cardio, I'm pulling up a playlist that I love, and I tend
Mm.
to build a new one every prep where like I'll clear out whatever I was listening to before because at that point I've listened to it a million times, and start fresh and start a new Spotify playlist of just like amazing songs that I'm in love with, and I'll play
Yeah.
those whenever I'm training, and that's like I do that for the whole season to help myself stay in a good headspace, and it's almost like it's a little Pavlov-esque, you put it on and you're like it's go time, like
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
So I think that helps.
What is the
And then
playlist currently? What's one, two, and three on the playlist?
Oh man, that's a great question. Right now it's a lot of like Brazilian funk, so I don't even know the titles
Interesting.
of it, but it's a lot of like remix, like there's a really good beat to it.
Mm.
Um, I love like old 70s Motown funk, so I listen to a lot of that, but like it's a very eclectic mix of music. So when you put this up, if you want to like share my playlist or whatnot,
Would
we can
love
get a
to.
link out for people to go check it out.
What does
But
Valerie
yeah, it's
listen
pretty
to 4 weeks
random.
out from prep? 4 weeks out from competition. Okay,
Yeah, it's
let's move
very
into
random. So.
I want to move into a little bit more of the process. Speak about what you're currently doing. I obviously know, but I'm not going to dictate. You can tell the audience. So obviously we've worked together now for three peak preps. Build process. You've mentioned yourself feeling a little bit uncomfortable, but I think that's also going into your first stage performance. Like I think you could probably resonate with this when you've been stage lean or close to it. Nothing else ever feels close, and especially coming out of a prep and then moving into a structural phase, and you. What's your average in terms of from stage weight to your off season in terms of weight? If we can let the audience know.
Oh, I mean, we've been all over the place. So my first stage weight was about 124 pounds.
Mm.
I'm 5'5", and that was for the wellness division. And I will say, coming in that show, I think I was in wellness because I hadn't gotten lean enough. Like my lower body would still had room to cut, and we
Mm.
just didn't push it that hard. My second show, my pro debut in Dallas, we came in at about 120, I think, give or take. I don't bring a scale with me during peak week. It's just
I
not.
could probably actually bring up her weights right now on the screen if you can see
Yeah.
it. I
So
can.
the weight that we have is like right before I got on the plane, right?
Yeah.
So it's somewhere in the realm of 120 pounds, and that was for bikini that we did, and I took second in bikini 35 plus in Dallas at my pro debut, which was, I mean, amazing. Loved
Mm.
that and got super excited about it. Hence, we ended up rolling directly into doing the LA show, and that show, the feedback at Dallas had been come in a little leaner.
Mm.
And I think you may or may not agree, Tom, but I think we like took it a little far, and got quite shredded. Um, and I think that show I was like 114 pounds and
Mm.
like had glute striations. It was wild. I've never
It-
seen my body that lean before.
yeah,
So
it's interesting because it's like we get to a point there where you really know which category you fit into when you get that lean. You
yeah.
know, I mean, if anything, you look freaking amazing. I thought you looked fantastic in Dallas. You've got great lower body physique, a great waist to hip ratio, and upper body is coming along nicely as well. And the focus through there was obviously to move in well the from the LA show to move into fitness. And that was going to take a little bit of balancing out in terms of your physique, but lower body, quads, just posing brought it out. It was yeah. I'll let you carry on with that one.
Yeah, I mean it was a funny show. I still competed. So in LA, I still competed in bikini. We
Mm,
crossed over into wellness, thinking like, oh, it kind of looked like maybe I was larger in the lower body and that might fit. And the feedback that I got post show, I just happened to go wander over to the new pro meeting because one of our team
mm,
members won her pro card in that show. And so I went to go and meet up with her to grab dinner afterwards. And Pauline came and found me and shared that she felt like I was in the wrong category and asked if I would please aim for bikini athletic or for fitness next time, which was, I mean, it made my year, honestly. I was so excited because I never thought that I would make it into fitness. I just didn't feel like I would ever get big enough for that.
mm.
So to hear it directly from Pauline that she wanted me to, at least step up into athletic, if not fitness, I just came back to you, Tom, and said like full send, let's do fitness. And so
Let's
that's
do
kind
it.
of what we're trying for. But yeah, I think it was really, really exciting. It made it so that the, not super stellar placements that I had, understandably, in bikini and in wellness were softened very much. Like, not that I was disappointed. I had a wonderful time at the show, and everyone I think was placed exactly where they were meant to be. But it was just such a revelation. I think we were like laughing when we looked at the photos of me on stage with the ladies that I was on stage with in wellness because I'm like this tiny little
Mm,
shrimpy. And I mean, like, I have a pretty good lower body development for sure, but wellness is like
yeah.
another level. So yeah, I definitely don't have that thickness there, but yeah, it was a learning experience and honestly a great one. I was so
Mm,
excited to get the feedback that I did, but I think it taught us a lot about what peak week looks like for me when I'm super lean,
mm,
because it looked very different that week than it did in Dallas, literally just a couple months prior.
mm.
So yeah.
But yeah, I mean, your body still responded through into Dallas. We've been dieting for probably around about 5 months up until that point at Dallas, and another 2 months. So last year, you spent a lot of the year effectively in a deficit. And for those of you who don't know, like to for Valerie to get the level of conditioning, she pushes hard. Like calories are pretty low, but she responds well, and we always make it. But for those who are listening, Valerie, and you know, you were someone who kind of like didn't quite fit a category from the first time you competed. You were kind of like in between, even through Dallas, and it takes a couple of shows sometimes, and again to get that next level conditioning to actually figure out where exactly you stand, and then obviously you've got to take that from where your body is currently. Your shape and your conditioning and your level of muscularity fits a certain category, but also where do you want to progress to? Because your goal was always fitness, and hell, doing bikini athletic and fitness, it's a quite close divide between it. There is a little bit of a difference, but what would you say to people that are kind of like starting out and they don't really know what category fits them?
I mean, obviously, get feedback, right? So
Mm,
we had some conversations about what category I belonged in. I also spent a lot of time talking to my posing coaches because they see you moving, right? So they get
mm,
a really good sense of like what does your body look like as you are moving and flexing and trying to show it off to its optimal. Um, but like, don't be afraid to just kind of like throw a pin in it and see where you land. The best way to get real feedback is from the judges.
yeah.
So if you can swing it to go out there and just make your best guess and give it a go. Um, there's no better way to get an understanding of how you kind of line up than actually lining up against
Mm,
other competitors and getting the
mm,
feedback from the judges. So, I mean, in my opinion, I think that that's the best way to go.
yeah.
But I also think it's important to keep in mind what you want. So, if you kind of look at bikini and go, oh my gosh, that's where I want to be, but maybe you naturally have more muscle mass, there's nothing wrong with saying that you want to cut down and try to get to the point where maybe you let some of that fade away and go a
Mm,
little lighter in your build season and taper down. And we've seen some competitors do that. I think Afton came down from
yeah.
fitness to bikini recently. Or if you want to do the opposite, like what I've done, and build from a softer, smaller physique and grow into a category that's more muscular over time, it will take more time.
Mm,
But if that's where you really want to be, I mean, your motivation is going to look completely different then, right? Like I'm not really struggling with motivation because this is the body that I want to live in.
mm,
Like looking at the women who are on stage in fitness, that's what I want, even what they look like in the off season. And that's the other thing I would say, like, look at what your favorite competitors look like in the off season and make sure you're
100%.
pleased with that, because it's peak week is not the only phase, right? So if you fall in love with how people look on stage and then don't take into account what it looks like to live in that body the rest of the time, you may be disappointed. So yeah, I do think that like the really, really push hard build season was necessary, but it was easier to navigate because I knew why we were doing it. And to go back to your question, Tom, you had asked me like, what does the gap look like between stage weight and peak? So stage weight, the lowest stage weight I brought in was 114 pounds. The highest peak build that we have done together was 147, which is pretty freaking high.
30 pounds.
So it was a big push, and I would say that's honestly like my highest range of weight that I've carried on my body, full stop. And so it really, like, we pushed me to a space that I was pretty uncomfortable in, but we're starting to see the benefits of that as we're leaning out for this show. Like, I think I'm seeing where a lot of growth happened, and I'm pretty happy with that. So was it painful? Yes.
Painful. And I mean, what were the main struggle? I mean, obviously, you know, holding when you've been 114 pounds and, you know, you drive up to 140 plus, obviously the comfortability comes from actually holding that and not seeing condition. You know, everyone loves the idea of a fitness model is obviously exactly what you said. And I think it's such an important point you made about when you are looking at a category, or when you are looking, for example, in the fitness model, look at the fitness models in the off season, not what they post on their Instagram all the time. You know, look at them in terms of how they actually look most of the time throughout the year when they're not in peak prep. And if that is also a physique that you love, 100% fitness is your way. But I think a lot of people get disillusioned that they lean down into a fitness they may not have enough muscularity, but they build up, and then they really struggle in terms of the structural phase because they just don't want to go down that avenue. They hate the thought, they hate they hate being anything more than 5 to 10 pounds above stage weight. But in actuality, do you need to gain 15, 20, sometimes more pounds to be able to create the level of muscularity you need to actually focus? Well, again, everyone's different, but you certainly can't stay like 5 to 6 pounds away from your stage weight. That is for damn sure. It's just going to be a tough struggle, and you'll fall into that category of not really progressing from stage to stage. We see so many competitors who don't follow that process, and their structural phases are just a little bit lazy. And they're stuck in that divide between feeling like they've gone too far, then they want to go into a mini cut, and then they feel like they're too small, and then like, I really want to focus on the build phase. And before you know it, you've lost 12 months of proper structural elements that you actually could have gained a lot of muscle mass, because you're doing a yo-yo between wanting to stay lean and actually wanting to gain size. So I think that's a really important point. Can you give us a little bit more? You're now just shy of 4 weeks out from competition. You can give me a little bit of an idea in terms of what calories are like, go into deep, like what your training level of is, just give us a little bit more of an insight into what life is like and what training, volume, cardio, calories, recovery is like 4 weeks out from a fitness show.
Yeah, I typically don't like sharing what calories get down to, because they get down really low, especially for me. My body is very efficient. If there were an apocalypse, I would be one of the last ones standing, because I would get by on some really, really low calories. So it's a blessing and a curse. But yeah, we're down to like the 1100, 1000 calorie range right now. We're doing a push, so that's not like the whole week. There are high days where we kind of balance that out with refeeds. But it's pretty freaking low. I think that is a very measured, calculated short period of time that's built into my prep as someone who is like a very resistant weight loser. Like it doesn't come off easy. My body will kind of like plateau and then have a little drop, and then plateau and then have a little drop. And so, that's probably the hardest part for me personally, is how low my macros end up getting. I right now have about 14,000 steps a day. So I have a walking pad, and during the day I'm moving like pretty much all day to kind of keep the steps as high as they need to be. And that's separate from cardio, which right now it's 4 sessions a week of 45 minutes and one an hour. And my husband is an angel and bought me a stair climber, so that's what I use for all of
Wow.
my cardio. That was my birthday gift last year after my two back-to-back shows. And so I am a spoiled girl with my own stair climber in my basement, which is the dream. But yeah, love using that. So yeah, that's kind of the protocol right now. I get up pretty early every day. My body just naturally wakes me up between like 5:30 and 6:30, somewhere like that. And yeah, I just hop right into it, rock and roll. If I wake up a little earlier, I'll do some steps in the morning. If I sleep in a little bit later being not very late, I'll just do the lift and the cardio and get that done. I prefer to get that done early in the morning, so again, like I don't have to think about it.
Mm.
And I also find that it's much easier to get my heart rate into a good zone in the morning, because it's naturally working with your circadian rhythm to push your heart rate a little bit higher in the morning doing cardio, whereas in the evening I have to push a little bit harder to get my heart rate higher. So that's kind of what that all looks like. Meal times, I'm super consistent. My husband laughs at me. It's like noon, we eat, 5, we eat. There's like a bedtime snack kind of thing, the Ninja Creamy. But it's very consistent. And he's kind of along for the ride and is a good sport about it. So, we tend to just cook everything at home and have pretty consistent meal times. If I do go out with friends, it tends to be like for a coffee, or we'll pick something that's easy for me to track. And I literally bring a food scale and we'll measure stuff at the table. And all of my friends know what I do and don't care. So, it's very easy, thank goodness, to do that. Like they're all on board, and if anything, they're all like, "Do you need something different? Like,
Yeah.
this sauce okay for you?" So they're all very supportive. And I think part of that is because I've shared so much of my journey with them. So it makes it a lot easier for them to be on board. And, I think one of the keys with that is like, don't make your friends feel bad if they're
Yeah.
not on board with you. So
Yeah.
if they want to go out and have a burger, like, don't complain about it. Don't make a fuss. You decided to do prep. They didn't decide to do prep. So if they're willing to go and get a salad someplace instead and like have you measure every leaf that you put on, great. If they really want to get the burger, suck it up and get a Diet Coke and just hang out with them anyway. It's fine. You'll live.
100%.
Food will be there when you're done. And so that's the mentality I've taken. And I think because I'm not pushy with friends or like making it hard for them to show up for me, they can. And so I end up having like a pretty cruisy prep in terms of social engagements,
Yeah.
because I have a good support system who, enjoys being there with me through the process.
Which is incredibly important. I mean, I don't think anyone on here has to be told in terms of like to have a good level of support from partner, friends, and stuff like that, and family, whoever you spend most of your time with, is very, very important. And when there is a disconnect there, it makes things pretty tricky. Was that a thing? Was that something that you had to put effort in to now have this like good balance between friends and socializing and stuff like that? Or was it something that came quite naturally?
I think so I'm kind of a natural communicator. I mean, it's something that
Mm.
I have always done and I do it for work. And so, I put a lot of value on communicating with people. And I think I've gotten better at it throughout competing because, coming back to that like boundary setting, once I started learning how to set boundaries for myself and what I needed and what was going to serve me well and communicated those well, it made it a lot easier for other people to show up for me. So I think once I got a taste of how much easier that made things in life in general, I
Mm.
started implementing that kind of everywhere I went. But I will say I also just have great friends. Like I've just been very
Yeah.
lucky. I don't have people who are judgmental or jealous or want to see me fall down. Like they're all really excited for me. And if anything, I think that they think I'm doing things that are a lot harder than I'm actually doing, and so they're really like they're checking in on me all the time, and I'm like, no, I'm okay, like it's good. But it also helps because we have such a great Team TBC community, so
Mm.
I'm probably on the daily chatting with one of the ladies on the team about like
Amazing.
what we're doing, what's going on, how's prep going, what are you up to. And so that's been wonderful. I mean, I've built some incredible friendships just from the ladies on the team that I've met at the different shows that we've gone to. Like one of them, I'm actually like we're buddying up for the London show.
That's
Which
Samantha.
Yeah, it was Samantha. So, yeah, we're actually going to go and do a little pop over to Paris after the show to go and
What?
explore
Amazing.
together. So,
Oh, see my invites in the post, right?
yeah, that's great. I haven't ever been, so I'm really excited.
It's sorry for any Parisians on that. Not a great fan of Paris, but no, I think it's just the Parisians. Paris is a beautiful place. No, I'm sure you'll love it. And fingers crossed that the weather's going to be nice. Do you mind going a little bit in terms of your partner, if you don't mind me talking about?
No, go ahead.
He's definitely into his fitness as well.
Yeah, so I think he's a little bit less into it than me. Like he loves doing lifting, but he's a little bit more focused on strength. And so, the physique portion is a little more secondary.
Mm,
We've talked about trying like high rocks together at some point and giving that a go. And I think that's more his speed. I've talked to him about would you ever try, stepping on stage and doing this with me? And he's been like, yeah, that's kind of your thing. Like you do
yeah.
you, it's fine. But he's still super supportive, and I think we both enjoy the same lifestyle
Mm,
pieces that align really well. So, irregardless of whether he feels like bodybuilding, which he really doesn't, the habits that I need to be supported through to be a productive, successful athlete are the same habits that he's
yeah.
doing to take care of himself. And so, I think the alignment is there, even though we're not pointing towards the same end goal. But it's just a recognition of that. So, and I mean, he will phase his build and cut seasons around my show season to support me. So,
That's awesome.
because he just is kind of rooting for me, but also is not pressing for a particular date. So he's happy
Yeah.
to sort of align with whatever I'm doing. So, yeah, really couldn't ask for a more supportive partner in all of this.
100%. And to be honest, whether it's a positive or a negative in terms of if people compete as partners, that's totally fine. I know there are a lot of others, but I think it's um, quite a good divide about as you said, competing, high rock, strength training, stuff like that. Everything is under the same umbrella. It's still the actions, the habits that you need to be fairly good, or even just change your body composition or strength, are very similar. To have someone that has that understanding, they're always going to be a lot more understanding of all the nuances that potentially come in your life, whether that's through a structural phase or through peak prep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Mm,
when you and your partner are both athletes and share an athlete's mindset, and by that
mm,
I mean taking care of your body, discipline, understanding the importance of a healthy routine, showing up for yourself, all of those things I think they're the hallmark of any good athlete. So it doesn't really
mm.
matter what sport you're looking at, but if you share that mentality, whether that be with your partner or your friends or whatever, it's so much easier. Like it shortcuts all of the communication piece because you're already on the same page. Like you know what you want to be eating. You know that there's a
Mm.
certain bedtime and you're not going to be going and staying out until 2 a.m. to watch a new movie that just came out. Like
Yeah,
you're already kind of on that same wavelength. So it just makes it a lot easier.
100%, 100%. Um, Now, this is your third, again, I will get it right. This is your third pro show,
Yes.
your fourth show altogether. From the time when you maybe first started to compete, or the first show, or before you even started competing, how do you see yourself back then in terms of as an athlete compared to now? What's changed? What's progressed? What has become easier? What has become harder?
So I think when I first started getting into just lifting in general, I did not
Mm,
view myself as an athlete, which is funny because I had always been athletic. So I did gymnastics, I did dance, I did horseback riding, I did lacrosse, I did softball. And for some reason, in all of that, I never ingrained that into my identity. And so I didn't view myself um, as someone who was an athlete, and therefore those behaviors that supported being an athlete were also not ingrained into myself.
mm,
And so I was very just like kind of loose with what I did. It was like I was vegan for a while, and did that. I got really into running, but not really from like a healthy place. It was just like I needed something to turn my head off. Like my brain was going all the time. So, the things that I was engaging in that were healthy from the outside really weren't motivated by health. They were just like hobbies or for fun,
mm,
or sometimes I would argue even maybe unhealthy. Like I think that my running was more unhealthy than it was healthy. I didn't feel properly. I didn't follow a really good program. I was not looking at myself from a place of love. I was really like beating myself into the ground. And I think when all of that really shifted was oddly enough during like a conversation with a coworker where she was talking about like some fitness classes that she was going to in the morning, like before work. And I had asked about them, and she had made a comment kind of like, oh, you wouldn't enjoy that. You're not really an athlete. And it really stung, like it stuck with me. And I couldn't figure out exactly why. It kind of niggled at me a little bit,
Mm.
where I knew that I didn't view myself as an athlete, but I didn't like that feedback. And that was kind of when I went, well, if I don't like it, I'm going to change it. And so that's when I found that program. I hired a coach after that. Like
Mm.
I really just made the decision that I wanted to be something different, and I decided that I was going to be an athlete, and that was that. And ever since then, I have read, watched videos, followed programs, invested in coaching to help me learn how to become a better athlete. And
Mm.
so I think over time, my headspace has really changed to um, one from a place of like, I don't want to say that I didn't like myself because it wasn't that, but I was not comfortable in my skin
Mm.
in the way that I have become. And it's really been transformative for my view of myself to do what I have done and gradually become, a pro competitor. Um, I feel like in the past I might have been hesitant to even call myself that. Like I would have felt like an imposter saying like, oh, I'm
Mm.
a pro fitness competitor. And now it feels like part of me in a way that's very natural, and I don't question it in the same way that I used to. Um, are there moments where I still kind of go, do I belong in this very like high level category that I'm pushing myself into? Of course, everyone has that, especially as you're in like these very last, phases of cutting for a show. But I think that there's a mindset of growth that an athlete has that I have fully embraced in a way that I didn't used to. I used to
Mm.
say like, I am not something rather than I am not yet
Mm.
something. And that's where the biggest change has been. So, if there's something that I don't identify myself as, but I want it, now what I'll say is, I'm not that yet.
Mm.
And it's much, much easier to then go, okay, well, if I want to be that, how do I do that? Let me like figure out the steps and map a path forward. And I think that it, you end up looking at the rest of your life in the same way. If you're someone who embraces this mindset of personal growth as a competitor, you'll start to apply that to other areas of your life. And so it's helped me progress in a lot of other areas, and be much more comfortable with kind of plugging in and learning new things and getting uncomfortable, being a beginner.
Mm.
There's so much to be said for being a beginner, especially as an adult. Like we're all afraid to try new things and kind of go into that messy space of learning. And it's so good for you. It's so good for your brain. So I would argue that, if you haven't gone and tried something new to you in the past 2 or 3 months, you probably should go do that because your brain
100%.
needs it.
100%. And that going back to that time when your coworker kind of triggered you, it's probably going back to the first time in earlier on in this conversation, we were talking about kind of the fear of failure, the fear of being seen to fail, I think is what you mentioned. And it sounds like you've always kind of in the back of your head wanted to be an athlete, but you've never really believed you could have done until you make that switch. Like, right, fuck it. Now it's on, and now you are living, breathing embodiment of an athlete. Um, to a sense of degree, in terms of comparing that to an athlete that competes at the Olympics and stuff like that. There's something about bodybuilding. There's something about fitness modeling that is so, and it's more to do with the nutrition side of things as well, because obviously performance and stuff like that in terms of like track and field and that kind of stuff, there's always that performance element and there's always that talent and there's always that progression in terms of that. But when you bring in a physical challenge of the nutritional aspect and the dieting, the prepping for it, it really does bring another big challenge into everything. Do you not agree?
Yeah, the nutrition piece is very challenging.
Mm,
I would say that was probably one of the hardest things for me to really wrap my head around. And I honestly like not even peak. Like peak is hard because you're hungry, right? You're
mm,
hungry and you're tired and you really want to eat more food and your hunger hormones are doing what they're supposed to do and they're telling you that you're starving to death and you need to go have a hamburger.
mm,
And that's normal. Like that is the body's normal response to that. I think what I really struggled with was the build season because I was so afraid of creating something that was in dissonance with the identity that I wanted to hold for myself. So
right.
when you say I am an athlete, and then you are at an uncomfortably high body fat, high body
Mm,
weight through the build season, you don't feel like an athlete. You just feel chonky. Like you
mm,
feel uncomfortable, your clothes don't fit. And so it can be really, really difficult, that headspace, to make peace with that. And you know, like, yes, it's fun to be able to eat French fries with your meal every so often when you're in that phase. That's great. Like, I think everyone loves being able to have some more food freedom during, you know, the more build focused
yeah.
phases. But it also is very, very difficult, I think, particularly for women, because societally being smaller
Mm,
tends to be celebrated, but also because our clothes fit different, right? So, like, women's clothes tend to be designed in a way that is not very forgiving.
mm,
So, when you start getting into the top end of a build, at least for me, I have like three wardrobes right now. I have build season, I have like somewhere in the middle, and then I have peak. And like right now, my smallest clothes for peak, they don't fit. So I'm literally like looping belts around my jeans to keep them on, but I don't want to buy stuff at this
mm,
tiny little size because it's such a small portion of my life that I don't want to get attached to the tiny, tiny little body that I'm in right now,
mm,
because it's one, it's not sustainable,
yeah.
but also what a waste of money to go and buy a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to wear for like a month and then have it not fit afterwards. So, yeah, I think it can be really, really difficult from a number of places. But for me, nutritionally, like finding the mental fortitude to power through that build season was
Mm,
really, really difficult, especially when you get comments from people who are your friends who are trying to be supportive, who are like, hey, are you okay? Like, you kind of, you know, you've gotten a little bigger. Like, is that what you meant to do? And like, they're not trying to be judgmental, but right,
yeah.
like it's the part that people don't talk about. So all of your favorite competitors, we say like go see what they look like in the off season if they ever show you,
Mm,
because a lot of them do a whole bunch of photo shoots when they're
mm,
really close to peak, and then they post those photos over and over and over again.
yeah.
I'm guilty of this. I do this, like, I don't post a lot of photos during my off season.
Mm,
I'm working on other things. Like, I'm not focused on it. It's not very glamorous. I don't do my
mm,
makeup every day. And so I have the photos that I got from when I did a photo shoot and when I was on stage. I paid for those. They're nice professional photos. And so I just post those with whatever I'm sharing.
mm,
And I think one of the things that we all need to be aware of, especially new competitors, is nobody looks like that all year round. And if
yeah.
they do, it's not a fun time. They're
Mm.
not progressing and they don't feel good.
It's not a good place to be
It
mentally.
does not feel good. It
Mm.
feels like being tired. It feels like being hungry. Things hurt that shouldn't hurt. Um, my husband like jokes that I'm constantly carrying around a pillow because like I have bony knees right now. So if I like go to lay down and take a nap, like they kind of push against each other and it's uncomfortable. Like, you know, sitting on hard chairs is uncomfortable when you get super lean. Like,
The
that's
things in the
uncomfortable.
things in prep people don't speak about. I love these things.
It's really
Can I
weird
ask you
stuff.
a question on top of that, Valerie, in terms of
Yeah.
your prep? So you are obviously an athlete, you know, you view yourself an athlete now. Um, how does your nutrition change? Obviously, the calories massively. I think at your highest point, we were closer to the 3,000 calories during the off season or the structural phase. But how does your meal timing and your meal makeup and your food choices change from peak prep to when your calories are a lot higher? Or do they
So
change?
yeah, I mean they change a little bit. You know, I think it's important to take advantage of the build season in spending time with the people in your life that you maybe aren't able to do as much when you are in a cut. So, having meals with friends and family, going out and being a part of celebrations. I love baking. I tend to bake more in the off season. And I still track all of it. So I'll build out the recipe, I'll measure everything out, I'll put it in my fitness pal, I'll put in the number of portions, and if I have a cookie, I know what it is. I made it at home. But yeah, I think it's mostly the same. I'm eating foods during peak prep that I enjoy. And they're cooked well because my husband is a wonderful cook, which is like such a bonus for me. So I
That's a
get to
bonus.
enjoy wonderful food even when I'm, cutting. Um, but yeah, I mean, during the build, I think we all go and enjoy nice restaurants. We might take a vacation and travel a little bit. Maybe there's some untracked weeks here and there, and I think that there's just a little bit more of a flexibility.
Mm,
So, I know during my build the phase, I checked in with you and said like, hey, I had like 3 days where like I just did the best that I could. I
mm,
just made good food choices. And I think during the build season, that is completely okay. And honestly, it's kind of healthy. It's
mm,
good sometimes to just like relax and let your body decide if it's hungry. Eat things that are good for you. Like, don't pick stuff that's going to make your stomach hurt or make you feel
mm,
awful. But, if you have a cookie, like, cool, you have a cookie. You should probably have a cookie in the build season and enjoy those things. And I think that it's all part of that like cycle. You do these very intense, very regimented, very restricted phases in a cut, and your body is not meant to do that forever. And
mm.
so having more food variety is really important for your gut health as well, which is something that like I've kind of learned the hard way because I've had some interesting gut repercussions after doing two back-to-back shows last year, which luckily have been largely remedied by just introducing more variety, making sure to add in probiotics, doing some supplementation. Um, but that variety is really good for you.
Mm.
So mixing things up and having different stuff cycle through for your food is nice and necessary. It's a good mental break. So yeah, I change it up, but I'm still eating the same food that I
Yeah.
like all year round. So
Mm. And just to touch on like the struggles of an off season, because you were what, around about 10 months, I think, were through a structural
um,
phase.
yeah, so LA was in September, and I think we came into peak prep in what was it like May, beginning of
Mm.
May.
So yeah, well, let's just say about 6 or 7 months.
Mhm.
During that time, what would obviously because people are in that period now where they've competed, they're going to compete soon. They know they're probably going to have to go through a structural phase. They know they're going to get feedback that they need to grow potentially in the category they are. But they're concerned. They're worried. They've been through it before. They didn't really make the most of their structural phase because they were kind of, as I said, they were kind of up and down. What were the biggest struggles for you through a structural phase, and how did you overcome them?
So I think they were all mental. I
Mm,
think that my body loves the structural phase. Like I immediately seem to put on mass pretty quickly, and it in both a positive and negative way, right? Like the healthy fat comes back, the necessary fat comes back, but
mm,
I do feel like I put on muscle relatively well, and so that part isn't as hard, and I enjoy like a really tough gym session. So, if I'm lifting, I'm pushing, I'm having a good time, I'm listening to my Brazilian funk and just like rocking out and having a great time. I think what is difficult is yeah, just making mental peace with it. You may go through a phase of being uncomfortable. Your body is going to look different.
mm,
Um, I think one of the things that's helped me the most embrace kind of the seasonality of bodybuilding is just accepting that the body is meant to change. And that I think was not something that I ever embraced prior to competing. I didn't like this idea of like a build and a cut. I wanted to be like the same size. Um, no lie, I had clothes in my closet from when I was in sixth grade in primary school that still fit me, right? And I thought that was great. And I was like, this is what I want, right? Until I started lifting, and then I went, no, actually, that's not. I don't want to
mm,
do that anymore. I don't want to be the size of a child, and I don't want to prevent my body from growing healthy muscle. Like, so I think embracing this idea of yeah, you might have a few different sizes of clothes in your closet, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you kind of should expect that if you are going to be a successful bodybuilding athlete, that you are going to go through a phase of gaining quite a bit of weight and a
Mm.
phase of losing quite a bit of weight, and that's just the sport.
But actuality, like we're talking a 30 pound gain, but coming from where you were, pretty much depleted on that, 114, like obviously, in terms of there's being little bit uncomfortable for a fitness athlete compared to being uncomfortable for a normal person in a normal environment, right? Like there was, in terms of if we were to say like, 140 plus is your uncomfortable weight, 114, I think our guesstimated stage weight for this is around about 116 to 117. So we've got around about another 5 to 6 pounds to go for this show. But let's just say stage weight is 116, uncomfortable is 140 plus. What is your like happy weight where you feel you can perform? You're not craving really. You're allowed a little bit of flexibility. You can have dinners and stuff like that. But what is your kind of happy weight? Because we have kind of like a comp weight. We have a weight where and the reason why we got up that was because we didn't actually have that much of a structural phase. Normally, structural phase I like to say is
For
a
sure.
minimum of kind of 6 to 8 months. But we had to get out of a show and really move into the fitness category. We had to make sure there are no stones unturned, so we didn't really have the luxury of a progressive reversal. We just like, right, we need to just optimize what we have now through a structural phase to then come into peak prep. What would be your happy weight, if you would like, in terms of like performance and everything feels fairly good?
Yeah, I hate getting attached to a number because I feel like the
Yeah.
scale is deceiving. So, if I've shared on my Instagram before some photos of my journey, and my very first like progress check-in photo that I ever took at the very beginning of my lifting journey was
Mm,
at about 147 pounds. That
right.
body looked way different
Mm,
than the one that we built during my build season when I was at 147 pounds. And I think even now looking at, so I am essentially the stage weight that I was for Dallas.
mm,
I don't look the same at all. So your scale lies to you. And I
yeah.
don't think that picking a scale weight number and saying like, oh, that's my happy weight, I want to be that weight, is realistic, especially for women.
Mm,
Especially for women that are trying to put on muscle, because what that's going to do is it's going to trick you into thinking you need to be smaller, and you don't. So I think when we came out of my second show last year, the weight that I said to you that was my like, I don't want to go any higher than this, was about 130, and we blew through that pretty quick and just like full send went into putting on a lot more mass. And I remember coming to you and saying, this is not fun. I don't want to do this. I don't like this. It's not. I'm not
mm,
enjoying myself. And it was sort of a like trust the process, which I'm glad that we did, because if I had immediately gone and just pulled back, we wouldn't have been able to make the type of progress that we
mm,
made throughout the relatively short off season that we worked through. So what I would say is like my happy body is somewhere like a jean size or two above what my stage size
mm,
is. I personally don't love my stage size body. Like it's very cool from like a science experiment type of
yeah.
mentality. Like it's neat to see what the body can do. But living in a body that is the size that you are when you walk on stage is one of the most uncomfortable things that you will probably ever experience. You are
Mm,
cold, you are hungry, like things bruise easily.
mm,
It's not fun, right? Your sleep is normally disrupted. I luckily have had a better time of that this season, but like last season, I was telling Tom every single week that I was getting less than 5 hours of sleep because I was essentially waking up because my body was just like, this is not right.
mm,
And, I was having some issues with that. So, yeah, I would say like don't get attached to a scale weight. Maybe get attached to like your favorite pair of jeans and
yeah.
go off of how those fit. And if they fit okay and you're comfortable, great. If they don't,
Mm,
maybe think about, am I happy with what I'm doing? Is this still meeting my goals? But all that to say still, I don't think getting attached to being one size is worth your headspace. You know, I
Mm.
think that thinking about your goals long term is worth your headspace. And so many women just fall in love with this idea of being like 130 pounds or less, regardless of what height they are, which is silly.
Yeah,
And then you deprive yourself of the ability to pursue bigger goals.
yeah,
And the scale is not the goal.
yeah. I mean,
So
body composition is always the fundamental, right? But
absolutely, yeah.
unfortunately, fortunately, whatever it may be, sometimes scale is for a competitor, something that we just is one of the only metrics we have to kind of track, obviously through a big scale, because at the end of the day, once you start to get 6 weeks out, 5 weeks out, the scale doesn't really have much of a bias. It's really, it's just one part of the puzzle. It's one part of the metric. It's one part of the data point that we track. But no one's up there with a scale or body fat calipers on stage. It's really about how you look and your conditioning. When it comes down to the last couple of weeks, yes. I mean, the reason as a coach, as we've done through peak prep and we will do in 4 weeks time, 3 weeks time, when you step on the London stage, every morning in peak week, we get our clients to send us through a condition rating, 1 out of 10. Now, a lot of people confuse this and say like 10 out of 10 is what they feel is the best conditioning. That's actually 10 out of 10 is the best conditioning you felt to date. For example, if someone's rating their condition at a 10 out of 10 every morning, they're like, okay, they are feeling better and better. If they rate it a 10 out of 10, then 9 out of 10, just go, okay, something slightly changed. And obviously, if they have the chance, they send in their weight. But obviously, that's a little bit different. So if they travel for you coming from using a different scale, it doesn't really matter. But it really comes down to kind of conditioning. As I say, no one's up there with a body fat calipers or scales. But it gives you, in a sense of where you are, scale weight is always going to change. If you are progressing as an athlete and you're going to put on muscle, your happy or your stage weight or your overweight weight is going to change every year. But it's
Oh,
really,
100%.
it's fundamentally a kind of like, it's one of the only metrics we have to track, because at the end, when we started prepping for this show, we were collecting data from the Dallas show and the LA show to see where you were, and that's how we predict your stage weight for the London show. Again, give or take, it doesn't really matter. If you come out at 121 pounds, 6 pounds up from your LA stage weight, totally fine. It doesn't fucking matter as long as you look in line with the fitness category and the bikini athletic category. So again, but it is a metric that we track. So
Yeah, it's just a
um,
data point.
it's just a data point. That is really it. It's something I think that's the thing. People get too obsessed in it, both competitors and just general population, about being a certain weight. But it's just a metric that you track. At the end of the day, how do you fit in your clothes? How do you feel in your clothes? How's your waist to hip ratio? How do you look in the gym? How do you look when you train? What is your body composition? These are the things that people train for, right? But again, it's just another metric. One final part to end it, Valerie. I think I have a good question in terms of let's. Oh, my light's just gone off. A little bit darker in here. Let's speak to a new competitor. Let's speak to Valerie when she was just starting out in the gym and potentially had competing would be kind of a nice thing to do, maybe, but I'm not too sure which avenue to take it down exactly. What would be the number one thing you would tell to Valerie back then in terms of competing, stepping on stage?
Oh gosh. So are we talking to Valerie who has a coach or not? Because I
No,
think that's really,
we're talking about Valerie, who's literally just started weight training, start to see that progression, and is now looking for the next avenue.
yeah, I think the level up is coaching, right?
Right.
So it in my mind, the the point at which I really started to see progress, real progress, progress that I was like sending my friend, my bestie lives in Florida.
Mm.
Sending her photos being like, look at this is so cool, like there's a muscle that I've never seen before. That progress started happening after I got a coach.
Mm.
And I think that the reason for that is having someone outside of yourself to help objectively look at what you're doing and give you feedback, give you structure, and guide you forward is such a game changer. It you can't help but progress. Now, you do
Mm.
have to be coachable, right? So if you take every piece of feedback from your coach and just have a breakdown over it because it hurt your feelings, you're going to have a hard time. Like, you need to let that go. Feedback is fuel, clarity is kindness. And so getting that feedback from someone that you hopefully you've done a little research, talk to other people who are competing, ask about their coaches, ask if they like them, how long they've worked with them, what their progress has been like. Get a lay of the land. Think about what you need through a coach. Do you need someone who's going to push you? Do you need someone who's going to pull you back? And it's different for every person. So, the first coach that I worked with was a pusher and was very good at doing kind of like the drill sergeant thing. I need the opposite. I need someone who's a little bit more measured, a little bit more laid back, who can help pull me back from being like way off the deep end. And so it's worked out really well for me to work with you, Tom, because you do that counterbalance for me in a really nice way. So think about, if you're, going to hire a coach, what is it that's going to work for you? And be honest with yourself. If you need someone who's going to bully you into getting up and doing the gym every morning, then you better hire that person, because someone who's more chill is not going to do what you need them to do.
I would
But
also say question your want as
question
well. If you're someone that needs to have bullied to get up out of bed and like get the work done,
you
I'd
have to be
question whether
willing to
you
do the
are
work. Your coach
exactly.
can't do the work for you. But if you need a coach who's going to be like, you're not pushing hard enough in your cardio sessions, you
Yeah.
really need to push, then, hire that coach. If you need a coach who's going to say like, hey, actually, I think that you're just holding some inflammation. Why don't we take a day off? You need a coach who's a little bit better at pulling you back. If that's the type of person you are, like if you're an overachiever, hire that coach, right? Because you need to be able to stay the course. But that consistency and that, like, the partner in helping you build those healthy habits that you'll get by hiring a coach is life changing.
Yeah.
And once you've had a coach for a little bit, you can decide, is this something that I really want to lean into? How much of a difference has this made in me? Do I feel energized by this as a hobby? Do I love this lifestyle? You have to love the lifestyle to be able to compete. If it's torturous for you, I would really not recommend that you compete. I would
Yeah.
recommend that you book a photo shoot and prep for a photo shoot and have a really wonderful photo shoot, have some fun, find a photographer you like take the pressure off and just make it about like setting a personal goal, right? But if you do decide that you want to compete, you need to be fully locked into that lifestyle and understand that, you can't derail. You can't be like, well, actually, I decided that I'm going to take a cruise in the middle of prep and I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks and I'm just going to eat whatever I feel like, because that's not the time or the place. There are some people who will compete and just like step on stage just to like tick it off your bucket list. If you have the money to burn to do that, then more power to you. But I personally, like, I would not feel great about doing that. And I think that, you will find, if you choose to be a fitness competitor, if you choose to set that identity for yourself, that you will plug yourself into an incredible community of people who are like-minded, who are supportive, who are just so in lockstep with the way that you want to live your life, that it will almost be harder to stop than it was to get into it. And so it's getting over that first hump. If you know it's something that you want to do, once you sign up with that coach and you do your first prep, everything is going to get easier from there, right? It's like an exponential thing for beginners. So once you step in as a beginner, you will see so much progress in like that first year that you will like set your soul on fire. You'll be so excited about it. So you can look forward to that and know that that's the type of progress you can get when you're first starting out. And then from there, you can decide how long you want to take it. Competing isn't forever for anyone. You can do it for a long time. There are incredible ladies who are competing who are like 50 plus, and they look insane. But you don't have to. You can do it for a few years, enjoy it, have fun, and then, pick something else if you want to. It doesn't have to be forever. You're not getting married. And even then, you can change your mind. So if you try it and you love it, you can keep doing it. And if you try it and you don't like it, then you don't have to do it again. And every show, I go into it where I'm like, do I want to do this again? Because this is really fun. And then I come out the other side of it and I end up messaging Tom going, when are we doing the next show? Because it's so much fun and I have such a great time. So I think it's worth it. I think
Yeah,
it's,
100%. And there's also a lot of people within our community in terms of competing that have competed in the past, have not stepped on stage in the last 5 years, but they're still within the community. They still come to the shows. They're still friendly. They go into another avenue, go into bikini designing, posing, all this kind of stuff. Like, there's so many different avenues. And as a competitor, obviously, if that is your time, that's something you want to do, 100%. But again, it's people fall in love with not only the process, but probably most of all, how it makes them feel in terms of the whole community side of things, in terms of the, being involved in that. It keeps them on track. It keeps them firm, whether they are stepping on stage or not. So, There's we have people competing. We've had people competing and turn up to shows who haven't competed for 10 years, but they're still within the federation. They're still within the community, and they love it and they still support it. So it's a good little family.
It's a great group of people. I love it. So,
Yeah. Hence, I'm still here 20 something years later. All right, Valerie, we've been over time, but it's been great chatting to you. Thank you for coming on. Any last thoughts or tidbits of information you want to give?
oh gosh, I don't think so. I
What
mean,
tell me what's next? Like, obviously, what's next for Valerie? We all know coming up in 3 and a bit weeks, stepping on the London
yeah.
stage. But where do you see yourself, or have you even thought about it? 2 years, a year from now, 2 years from now.
I mean, I hope that I'm still competing. I've been very lucky in that I've not had any like crazy injuries or anything like that, and that's a risk that anybody runs doing anything athletic. But I've been very lucky in that, and so right now I'm looking forward to hopefully doing another show maybe next year, depending on what the timing looks like. We'll see what the calendar comes out showing, but so much of this is the judges' feedback, right? So I'm really excited to get judges' feedback from London, see where I stand in the category that I really want to be in.
Yeah.
And if the feedback is grow, then that's what we're doing. And if the feedback is something else, then we'll pick a different path. But I think I'm just open-minded about what the future looks like. But yeah, more of the same. More of the get up at 5:30, do the weightlifting thing, do the cardio, track the macros, because
Love that.
I'd be doing it either way. So it's just,
It's a
do I do
lifestyle,
a
right?
sparkly bikini at the end or do I do it just for me? So yeah.
Amazing. Well, Valerie, I shall see you in 3 weeks' time. Thank you for coming on. Um, we shall end it there. For now, thank you guys for joining. And as ever, follow Valerie in her journey to the London stage, follow Team TBC, and follow TB Conditioning. And we shall speak to you on the next one. Thank you very much, Valerie.
Thank you.